Hello everybody and welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. Today I'm very excited because we've just released another update for Surface Forge. It's now Surface Forge version 0.7, which adds the new Decal Forge Blueprint, the one that has parallax occlusion mapping, triplanar projection, and so on, to the whole package. This means that you are getting the Decal Forge system for, part of the Surface Forge. So it's like an add-on, but it's there part of the whole package. The price hasn't increased on Fab or anything like that. It's just simply the same price for the Surface Forge, but now with the added benefit of the Decal Forge on top. This will add so much more to your workflow. It allows you to build complex decals in your environment very quickly using masks, using triplanar projection, using parallax occlusion mapping for a lot more depth if you want to. It reacts to shadows, to sunlight. It casts shadows and all sorts of things. So it's actually quite an interesting update, and I wanted to go through and show you some of the changes that have been implemented and how the map has evolved. Also, the Surface Forge is now available for Unreal Engine 5.7, and so is the standalone Decal Forge on top. So, basically everything has been updated to 5.7, and, more features have been added. So that's kind of it, really. But let me just give you a breakdown and see if you enjoy the new updates. If you already got the project, I know a lot of you already got it. And if you don't have the project, maybe you'll consider doing that. But if you don't want to get it on Fab for the price that it's on, you can actually go on Patreon, and literally for the price of a coffee, you can have access to 50 plus projects, including the Surface Forge and Decal Forge as well, and the rest of the Forge series. So yeah, let's have a look at what we have in store, and yeah, thank you. So I think the best way for me to show you just what the new features of the Surface Forge are with the new Decal Forge, the Decal Forge 1.1, I'm going to just literally show you the before and after on these projects. So the one that I've got open right here is the old style project. This is using Decal Forge, basically the alpha version. And if we actually go over here to the new Surface Forge project, this is the new Decal Forge. This is the Decal Forge 1.1, which has parallax occlusion mapping, has triplanar. I mean, Surface Forge came in with parallax occlusion mapping decals already, but they were quite bugged when it came to vertical surfaces. So let me show you some things in here. So currently in the old project, we can have a look at these decals. We'll notice that they are, as I said, old style decals. They're actually just using a normal decal type of actor in the world. And if we go here and we edit the level and we select this decal, for example, we'll notice that the surface looked quite okay in terms of like detail and so on, but it didn't really have any depth. And if we open the material, which was just a normal material instance that we could just open and edit, then in here we did have options such as use parallax occlusion mapping. And also we have things like use fake ambient occlusion. You can see in here without ambient occlusion, it's, not looking very good. But once we enable ambient occlusion, the fake type, it actually looked a bit better. It gave it a bit more depth. But then we could also enable parallax occlusion mapping, which, as you can see, it looked horrendous. It was horrible. I don't know if you can see the artifacting on YouTube, but this is like horrible. It's just not able to actually calculate and properly cope with what's going on. So you could only really lay this on a flat horizontal surface with parallax occlusion if you wanted to see the right results. So that was a horrible thing to work with. And even if I, if I go up here and I have a look at some other decals, all of this stuff in here are decals. I can just select one of them from here. You'll see this is a decal right here. Okay, so with that enabled, it was very difficult to even use sorting. So for example, right now I'm just going to put this to sort 1 just so it shows up. And again, I'm doing that through the normal decal actor that would be left in the world. And then I could go in here and use parallax occlusion mapping. And there's actually virtually not even any difference for doing that, but I can increase the parallax occlusion mapping to 0.1. And again, you couldn't really see much. Nothing was really going on. It's just, again, doesn't really add that much depth to the scene, unfortunately, because it wasn't set up to do that in the first place. I mean, even here, right on these roofs, it was very, the contrast was too high. They just weren't production ready. But let's have a look at what this kind of looks like in the new Decal Forge, in the new Surface Forge project. So in here, we'll notice that we have kind of the same setup, but then we have these floating blue balloons around. And what these are pointers where the decal is. And I'm going to edit this level, right? And I'm going to go to the same decal as before, which is this one here. And you'll notice that it is now a blueprint format decal. No longer is it just a material instance on a decal actor. And this means that it has a lot of ease of use on the blueprint directly. You can just change that whenever you want. Now, if we have a look here on this surface, right, I can actually go and enable parallax occlusion mapping. And I'm not sure if it's visible on YouTube, but this is no longer causing us issues. And I can also enable shadows, which are not very visible in this particular case. But you know what? Let's just duplicate this this decal, right? And you can see that I'm kind of away from the wall there. It's not exactly positioned or whatever, so I want to position it quickly. Then I have this button here where it says align to surface. I can press that and it automatically moves the decal where the wall is, and that just saves a lot of time. Right, now with the decal in place, I can further move it maybe up the wall here. And now I want to change it to mask type. So I'm going to go in here and select a different kind of mask, maybe something like this. And now you notice that we can see this type of texture a bit better here, right? That's what it looks like. And it's got parallax occlusion mapping enabled, and it's got shadows enabled as well. We could go and disable shadows, and we can go and disable parallax occlusion mapping, and you can see just how flat it looks when we disable it. But when we enable it, it looks a lot better. We also have support for triplanar, so it actually projects on multiple surfaces quite nicely. But what I want to do here is I'm going to increase the tiling to, well, maybe like a 1 or something like that, just so we can see this a bit more. And now you can just see that triplanar in action. I mean, it's really nice. It looks really good. And it's no longer causing any real artifacting. And this is not running on the highest steps for parallax occlusion mapping. As you can see here, it's only 8 minimum and 32 max. And I can actually increase these steps, you know, to basically give it a bit more perception. Now, one thing here is actually competing with the decal underneath. So I'm just going to go to the decal sort order and set this to 1. So it's now overtaking the decal underneath. And we can actually go in here and we have a look at the performance debug. If we turn this on, it will kind of show us just how much the performance is costing right now. And as you can see, it's actually bright red. So this is not good. This is why we need to set these, you know, take these steps a bit further down, maybe to like a 32. And because it's currently, you know, merging with another decal, this also means that the cost is a bit higher. But what's really important here to note is the fact that it allows us to visualize just how costly this particular decal is with this texture and this mask. But we can see it, right? We predominantly want this in the green. Now, whenever you're going to use parallax occlusion mapping decals on a vertical surface, that's going to be more expensive than if you're using it on a horizontal surface. So let me show you what I mean. If I go up here onto the highest level, I have another decal up here, which is again using a triplanar, and it's using shadows. I'm going to move it a little bit just so you can kind of see where it's at. It's really nicely blending with the environment, as you probably notice. And this decal does have shadows, so you can see them if we enable them, and it also has parallax occlusion mapping. By the way, shadows and parallax occlusion mapping can work independently, but if you do keep shadows on and POM on or off, the cost is higher than keeping them both off. Now we're going to enable them both, and we can go over here into the performance again, so we can have a look at the performance debug. And as you can see, most of this is in green, and that's because, again, our viewing angle is quite nice. So the more you look at it like this, the greener it is, the less expensive it is, because it's not doing all those calculations for parallax. But whenever you go at an angle, it starts to become a bit more red, right? But it's still better than the surface, the vertical surface that we saw earlier, because again, when it's on a horizontal surface, it's actually cheaper to do. Now we can obviously remove this performance view, and now we can have a look at these decals directly. And there's a bunch of them in here, like, you know, we're using decals for the roof, and you can see there now it has a more natural transition with the roof, combining with the other meshes as well. It just works better. And if we have a look at, I don't know, this one here, which is this one on the roof, we will notice that we have triplanar enabled, which is allowing it to properly sink through onto these surfaces. And here you can see there's no stretching, there's nothing like that when it falls on these boards. And that's exactly the kind of effect that I want to see. But I can disable triplanar. Obviously, I'm going to have to play with tiling a little bit if I do that. So tiling for non-triplanar, probably around 4 or something like that. Now, if we have a look like this, you'll notice that, first of all, it's currently masked. So we can remove that mask by going to, well, actually, no, it's not even, I'm just trying to like get it unmasked as much as possible. And here it is, right, unmasked. You can see just how much it's like stretched and bleeding in. It's not looking very good. But we enable triplanar, and all of that is all of a sudden fixed, right? We have no problem like that. The only caveat is that triplanar currently does not work with parallax occlusion mapping. I could make it work, but it's just very expensive. So I don't know if I'm going to support that. I feel like it would be good for cinematics, but not good for games. I just don't see people ever using that because it would just be too expensive. But either way, there's a lot of decals in this scene here. There's a lot of decals that are adding a lot of structure, a lot of texture onto the surface. And you can see in here, even at the back wall here, there's again one very large decal right in this particular position, which is covering all this wall, just adding more intricacies. And the rest of the detail is purely the Surface Forge painting method of allowing 3 layers to combine in various different ways, like brick, mortar, and things like concrete and stuff like that. So overall, those are kind of the things that have been added. Currently, the Surface Forge is ongoing a full transformation to be much more performant and with a lot more options. But in the meantime, I've added a Decal Forge, as I said, as an update. And it's got a lot of, it's packed with a lot of features, a lot of textures, a lot of masks. So just give it a go. It's a free upgrade for the Surface Forge, so why not? So that's all we had for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the update. I am working on update 1.0 for the Surface Forge, which will bring a brand new list of things in it, basically. It will revamp a lot of the parameters. It will add more details into the panels. It will add more description. I'm working on a tutorial for it that will further emphasize how you can use it. It's going to upgrade the painting system. It's going to update the vertex, how it's handling the vertex color and how it's reading that data. The Decal Forge will also update. But yeah, it's all inbound to develop further, because I don't want to hold it only to to this level. I want to update it and make it into a fully fledged product for creating games and cinematics and so on. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching.